ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Travis Told You on a Monday, October 25th. Almost said 22nd for some odd reason. I'm your host, Travis Snell, and yes, I am back. A little bit of a week off. I apologize if I didn't say it the week before. I think I told the patrons, but I don't know if I told anybody else, so I apologize. Last week I was off from my day job, so there just wasn't time for... There's just certain times I can schedule in when I know I'm home. Last week I was off hanging out with the twins, hanging out with Emily, hanging out with Ellie, the two oldest, of course. They go to school and whatnot, but just doing stuff. We had a hooky day where we went to our local pumpkin patch on Wednesday. We let the kids off school and whatnot, so that was a fun day. So that's why I just could not plan for it, but luckily there wasn't like an abundance of news. There still isn't. It's getting oddly quiet. I guess we did just have New York Comic Con, so maybe that's why some studios dropped some stuff and felt like, oh, that's good enough. But let me just let everyone know I'm here doing my thing. But yeah, so I'm back. What are we doing here? We got Monday and Wednesday for Travis Told You. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll probably have to start thinking of an evergreen topic in case Wednesday sucks for the amount of news and everything. Because really, I just got the box office, and then I got Mike's question that he put in last week that I said I want to make a topic. I got a couple of things from Charlie as well. So, yeah, I'll try to think of something evergreen topic in case Wednesday. I do have a list somewhere, but I like try and pick something timely or maybe something, that I haven't talked about. Well, who knows? But that's a warning for anyone that's listening. If you have anything that you think could be longer for me, you want me to discuss, get it ready, because Wednesday I might need it. I would love to do a Q&A episode in the future. I'm still playing with the, I think it's like I said before, I'm going to do this like the 2 times and then at this time slot until the end of the year. And then I'm going to kind of see. I'm not sure if I'll ever change the time slot. Not sure if I'll ever go from recording and then post it live and after the fact. So I don't know. Kind of all depends. A lot of things with job, life, etc. Especially next year, Emily will eventually go back to work because her mat leave will be over. So as of right now, until December, pretty much mid-December, I'll be doing this. Obviously with Christmas and everything, that's a crapshoot. And there'll be some changes here and there with movies and everything. But yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. Also, I did do some stuff last week. I did Gen V with Taylor, which we got the finale this week. So look out for that. That should be lots of fun. And then for the patrons and the people that watched live on that day, we did do GV. I think it's 676, right? It was a live cast. It was myself, Kirkland, and Taylor in studio, in person, on the patio. We had a fire pit going on. We had the Halloween decorations behind us. We had one topic planned, and we didn't even get to it because it's literally 2.5 hours of tangents. And if people wonder what the old GV used to be like that, like it was like that, but worse because there were sometimes 5 to 6 of us in person. It just goes off, right? So that is the good thing about online. I just feel like it keeps us narrowed in, but I think for those episodes, that's what we kind of want, is a fun laid back vibe where we kind of go anywhere, right? Because we cover news all the time, and like we said, Maddie is a champ. He's waiting for that Bond draft. I will get it to you, man. If they some reason cast Bond before we do the draft and I'm wrong, then we'll make it up to you one way or another. But yeah, lots of good stuff happening in GeekVerse. Got the finale this week. We got for Gen V. Obviously, we got SideQuest coming up. We have some retros coming up for the patrons. We got Bike Riders, which is a Patreon pick, and we got the Running Man. So it's gonna be tons of fun. We got After 9 this Friday, 6 p.m. PST. Just gonna be a regular talk one. Usually for Halloween we do the watch along ones, but because we did Netflix and Fail, the patron, like all the people that donate on GVD unlocked the Ice Cube, what is it, World of Worlds, that one, and then we did one not too long, I can't remember the other one. Oh, it was the Val Kilmer one, right? Because we did that kind of a tribute stream when he passed away. We did a lot of watch along, so I think what I'm going to do is going to I think the next one we're going to do is that Peter Pan one. So Maddie, I know I told you to wait. We could do that for Halloween. If you want to watch it, go ahead, but I still think in January we will try to watch those together, because those are some... there's some different movies, but they're fun to watch with everybody. So that's just why, though. We've done lots of watch alongs and haven't done too much, just like catching up. And usually Halloween we have some fun times talking about scary movies and moments, and we can talk about that scare list. I know we'll do that on GeekVerse News coming up too. But yeah, so lots of fun stuff in the GeekVerse sphere. Like I said, that episode of us in studio. If you're not on Patreon, you can get there right now. If not, it'll release at some point in the future. We try not to have too much on the feeds, but on Patreon, it's Wild Wild West. You're getting multiple episodes a day, tons. Like I think there's another week where you're getting more than the whole week amount of episodes. We just did the gimmick. That was again talk about tangents. Lots of fun with myself, David, and S Bubs. And then finally, before we get in the main topic here, after 9 this Friday, Extra Life, couple. I was gonna say a couple Fridays from now, a couple Fridays plus a day, November 8th, 24-hour stream. Very fun. It's starting to get rolling right now. Like everything's kind of getting cemented. Lots of the planning's happening. Things are being filmed. It's gonna be, especially with certain things that we got going on, I think it's gonna be a bit more bigger than it's been a little years ago. We're still in the same location, but there's just certain things that we can do now that maybe we couldn't in the past. So I'm looking very forward to that. And especially the gauntlet, that's my bread and butter. Very excited. I shared David and SBub some stuff that we got planned going on. And if people don't know, that's happening. That's our esports gaming league where it's going to be a tournament. We're doing like a whole season of GeekVerse into one night, and it's 5 rounds, but it's like a mix of video game, esports, and wrestling. There's going to be entrances. There's going to be promos. It's going to be a very good time. Oh man, if you could see what I'm seeing right now, half naked Emily, my goodness, she's telling me to shush up, but this is why it's good working from home. But Extra Life will be happening in a couple weeks from now. So yeah, just narrowing all down. And then now in the next few weeks, you'll get the announcements. You get the events, you get the stretch goals, and then you'll get all the people, the trivia people who are playing. I always leave that till last week because lots of people usually say yes, but things can change within 3 to 4 weeks. So it's going to be a very good time. And yeah, donate if you can, buy the shirts if you can. Everything's tax deductible I don't know about the shirts, but if you donate to Extra Life, that's tax deductible, and we really appreciate it. If we can get close to our goal or past it, I haven't done the exact math, but if we can get close to our goal, or at least for sure if we hit the goal of 2,500 Canadian, we will have passed 20,000 for Extra Life in the 9 years we're doing. That's very good. But yeah, it's going to be very fun time. As usual, there will be a whole preview episode to get down to it. Lots of good stuff. So let's get into this. Okay, so Mike asked this question a couple weeks, or just last week there. I just have to answer that thing. Where is that? There we go. Okay. And what do we got here in the comments here? Let's see. Just got the Extra Life. I'm wearing it right now. Hell yeah. Both. What did you get? David got the F4 one. I'm trying to think what you would get. If it's just the one. I think I'm gonna say Jurassic World. I could be wrong. I will say I think that one's the best one. We'll talk about it. I'll save it for Extra Life, but like when we do our preview cast. But Taylor had a tough time with both of the other shirts. One, I think it's biased. He loves Jurassic Park, so it just synced in his mind. But that is the easier one. Where Superman, it's not really like three-dimensional. It's very straight. And then Fantastic Four, there's like 3 designs of which one we wanted to go with. We didn't go with the one that I exactly wanted, but Taylor wanted to do that one, and he's the designer, so I went with it. And I understood his reasoning why. Also because the thing I want was probably a bit too hard, so the poor man's already working hard enough. But he got the Jurassic one. Yeah, that is that to me is the favorite. It looks good. That's why we have the main, like the theme. It's gonna be 3 different things going on, but the Jurassic Park one is the nicest looking one. I think the aesthetic is really good too with the logo, so it just fits a lot better. But I bought them all like a savage. I got the Jurassic, Superman, and F4. So yeah, go do those right now. But let's get into this. Mike asked this question, and he asked, and that's a great thing because sometimes I can answer them quickly, but when he asked us, I was like, you know what? I don't think this can be just a quick 10 to 15 minute. Maybe it will be, but I don't think so, because I think what the problem is, and here is the question. I'll get the full question because obviously you can see the title of the episode, but let's see. Who are your Mount Rushmore of 21st century horror directors? Define horror directors however you want, but they must have started their careers in the 2000s. So, and that's a great question. I might kind of do a spin-off of this, Mike, and do because at first when I was reading this, I thought you were asking the horror icons. I might do that too, close to Halloween. That might be an evergreen topic. I don't know if I'll do that on Wednesday because that's kind of two similar topics back to back. So I try to like vary it up. But closer to Halloween, I think I'll definitely do that because I think that's directors. We're not lacking any great horror directors. Icons, I think we're starting to pick back up, and I think people are realizing that. Like I think Art the Clown, really symbolized that. But just even stuff like Clown in the Cloverfield, other things that I feel like people are trying to emphasize, that we're trying to make Kirkland's Hunter that, one day. But no, so that's something I might do. But for directors, this is a very interesting question because I feel, oh, hang on, no, there we go. I could feel the neck need to snap, and it did crack, not snap. If it snaps on neck, not good. Uh, for the directors, I feel like we talked about this, whether Discord or I think after 9. So I don't know if you asked because of that or whatnot, but one of the last after 9s we were talking about horror directors, and I feel the 70s and 80s had you had Craven, you had John Carpenter, you had why am I not? I'm blanking on a couple others now. Because I said Craven, Carpenter. Why am I? Man, I just botched the fucking topic right away. 80s horror directors. There's gonna be Tobe Hooper, right? Directors. Let's see. I don't know why I got all caps on like a fucking lunatic, but I do. Let's see here. Okay, had I not? Yeah, there's a couple here just because I'm on the spot here. So yeah, Tobe Hooper, Cronenberg. I guess Joe Dante. I would include Joe Dante really there. David Lynch for sure. George Romero, and then Raimi, right? But that's a huge crop of people that are very influential. Clive Barker, yeah, that's another one I put in there too. But for at least in the generation or that decade, you had those go-to. Even the first three I named, right? Multiple things going on. Carpenter and Craven alone. And then it kind of felt like in the 90s and early 2000s that kind of went away. And I'm not saying the horror dropped. I think there's a bit of it, which I'll talk about Mount Rushmore, and that'd be why I'm, looking at this. Because let's actually take a look, because this is the whole episode, other than box office breakdown, which will be, not super long. But like, if I go horror directors, like Wes Craven's still there. Sam Raimi's still. I think this is what we talked about on After 9, where Clive Barker, like a lot of the people that were in the 80s transferred over the 90s, right? And that's what you hope to happen, right? You hope to have like same thing the directors today, that they will carry on to multiple decades. You don't want they direct the one and then they go on a bad path and they direct TV shows and that's it, right? Peter Jackson, I know why people might put him there, but I agree when it says his early work. I wouldn't put him as like a horror director. He's a director that kind of dabbles in it, but not many in the 90s, right? And that's where it was kind of a leftover from the 80s, or just knowing the 90s really carved out a new path. And I suppose exactly what I was just talking about, that's the same vibe I have. I feel, as Bob says, I feel like 90s had a lot of carryovers or one-hit wonders. The one-hit wonders for sure, where if you look, boom, something happened, then what happened to them? Like I said, directs a few more movies that are goes to TV shows, and then that's kind of it, or they become assistant director or just a writer, which nothing wrong, right? Like, you're still in a business of making movies, but I'm sure most people go, hey, love to have Wes Craven's career where fucking multiple franchises, multiple goat horror movies, like that's the goal. That's the dream, right? But even like I look at it right now on my TV, I just got the Sony home screen. Like, I know what you did last summer. Like when that, I don't even know who directed that. I know, because I'm pretty sure, was it Williamson that still wrote it or no? Let's see here. Is it going to give me the new one? Okay, good. It gave me the old one. Like Jim Gillespie. I've heard this name. What did he do? Joyride. Oh man, we've probably talked about this. 2005's Venom that we watched with After 9. He did that. But that's where it's like, I do not think that's a great movie. I rewatched that in preparation for the new one, which also was not a great movie. But at the time, big hit, right? And you would think more would come from that. Didn't even do the sequel, right? So that's where it was. And then the 2000s were starting to rev up and get those more people, right? And that's where I'm going to go with the first and obvious choice for my Mount Rushmore, because I have two solidified. I think one is, if this first one is not solidified on anybody's list, I kind of don't trust them. I really don't, because my list is not just a personal favorite, even though I like this first pick a lot. The second pick is pure personal favorite. I can make an argument for, why X, Y, and Z that they still belong on the list. I don't think there's like a personal favorite, like they did one horror movie and that's it, right? There's stuff like, if I were to have like, I think we talked about it in honorable mentions here, because people threw out some other one, I always fuck up her name. Let's see here. I know it's Caroline Fagiter, Corley Fargat. I think that's how you said. That's somewhere it's like, hey, they have two great films on their notches, but still need a little bit more. If I were to put her in my Mount Rushmore, that would be like a very biased pick that I couldn't really back up. She's not right now, even though Substance is one of my favorite, body horror movies the last couple decades. Like that was my favorite movie that year, right? So even the second pick, that is a personal favorite, I can make a big case of why they're here. This first one to me should be on all of them, and that's where I am. Where I think I have three solidified. The fourth one is very tough for me. I think I do have a pick, but the fourth one I could argue a bunch of different slots, right? So the first one I'm going with. I think most people are going to think this is obvious. What I was just talking about with the early 2000s. To me, if you're making a list and I don't see this guy on here for your Mount Rushmore, James Wan. James Wan has to be here. He's one of those that is spanning now multiple decades. Because what? Saw came out in 2005, right? Let me get his IMDb so we can just look up everything. Oh my God. Turn off caps locks. It's annoying because at work when I use my computer, everything's supposed to be in, not everything, but a lot of stuff is in cap locks just to, obviously if I'm dealing with hospital gear and stuff, they want to avoid like any confusion going on. So James Wan, yeah. Saw came out in 2004. This guy has had massive hits in 2004, in the 10s, and then I guess not in the 20s yet, right? Where was Malignant there? And I know someone's going to be like, massive hit. Like, obviously, stick with me now. Malignant was 2021, and obviously he went off to go do Aquaman, so that changed a little bit. Hopefully we get back to horror, because what's he doing? The Call of Cthulhu? Follows Francis Thurston as he investigates the cult worship, the ancient monster Cthulhu. Isn't that big water monster, right? Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft. Hell yeah, that's perfect, especially after Aquaman. Well, what a perfect like kind of blend for him. Honestly, Malignant, I'm talking about for the 2020s now, for all the decades, I'd say is a very controversial movie. I think the horror community really appreciates it, even if they don't love it, they really appreciate it. I think in the wider community, it's probably a lot more mixed, because I feel there is some stuff where it's definitely on purpose kind of B-rate. There's some stuff that is cheesy for me in a good way, but I do understand where people think, oh, Malignant. But you put that aside. For me, that's an absolute win. I imagine this Call of Cthulhu is going to be really good, but you put that aside. Saw, and here's the thing with my list. It's to do with their work, but also what they've inspired, right? Saw not only inspired a franchise that's still going, that's about to get rebooted and everything like that. Cthulhu isn't really a water monster. Definitely a squid-looking monster, though. Is he not a water monster? Because I'm not saying you're wrong, S-Bobs. When I put up, like, I'll screen share all these images. My dude's by water over here. Let's take a look at him here. That's not all the images, but it's a lot of them, right? Like, look, water, coming out of water. Okay, no water. That's water coming out of water. This book he has a lot of water right there. So this is what I mean. Like, obviously, tons of water here, S-Bobs. I don't know what's going on, but I have not read the story or anything like that. So that's where maybe it just spawns from water, or it's not in the water. But any water-like sequences. Look, he's taking down a boat. Any water-like sequences, I think one's like kind of nailed, right? Because he has the Aquaman stuff. So either way, I think that's still a massive plus going on. But Saw the franchise, 10 films that he produced, or EP'd at least. The first three had a lot to go on with, I think he still wrote all three. Let me confirm that. I think he still wrote all three, even though that doesn't matter. I'll confirm, but it doesn't even matter. And this guy, like, you think about the career that he has, the blueprint for, I think, like, what any kind of horror director would want, like, including myself. Like, yeah, so let's see. He wrote Saw Rebirth, and Saw 3, a story about... Okay, so he didn't have anything to do with 2. That's interesting. And the video game, he did the treatment, so he's still been around. But they made the Saw short film, he and Lee Whannell. Lee Whannell's another guy you could argue. I don't have him to even have him the honorable mentions. I don't think I did. He would be an honorable mentions. I don't think he's done enough great stuff yet. Obviously, Upgrade has some, like, horror slight isms, but it's definitely not there. It's more sci-fi. Invisible Man, great. Wolfman, I really liked. I know that's more contentious with the community, but I think he needs a bit more just solo ones under his belt. And that's the way James Wan, do we look at them? The only one that I feel like is missed in the horror ones to me has been because let's get another writer cred right there. Dead Silence. I remember Dead Silence and Death Sentence. I gotta rewatch that one again because that's the revenge one with Kevin Bacon, right? Yeah, I remember enjoying that one. But Dead Silence to me is the only one that didn't really hit on the horror level. I don't love the Insidious franchise, but my point was, so Saw 10 films, they're rebooting it, says he's heavily involved. Great. You got that going on. Also for inspiration, there was dark films before, like even like the Siberian film, like I think that came out before Saw. Like there's obviously, especially in the foreign market, lots of really messed up films. But I would say in the North American mainstream, he did create the torture porn phase. He created the how can you make, and it's funny because, and not he, just that film. So he's obviously directed that, but it's funny because Saw 1, the one he directed, is the least amount of that, right? Like you watch something where it's the guy that has to get through the barbed wire. In context, or like in the idea of that, you would think, man, a guy having to push his way through barbed wire, that's brutal. That's gonna be really gross. It's very quickly cut and you don't see much of it, Same thing with the fire guy, you don't see much of it. The saw in the leg, you see that saw rip through skin a couple times and that's about it. The first movie is the least amount of like kind of torture porn-esque, right? But it created a genre of that, trying to be that. It's very much like the Psycho Hitchcock thing, right? Of creates horror, you don't even see that much of it, and then people take it and get bigger and bigger with it. But that is, whether you like that franchise or not, to me it's that created that kind of craze going around with Hostel and other stuff. And even the things like the Black Christmas remake, where there's stuff that was maybe not even intentionally, even I'd say Friday the 13th with the remake, like even that stuff got more gorier because like, well, you got to be Saw. That's the thing you have to. And that franchise went to what, about 7? It started to burn out at 6, but still about 7 years in a row where they released those things annually and people would go out and they'd be profitable and hit. And then also you had a couple ones later on. Crazy. Very, very, like, just fantastic as far as creating a franchise, right? Does a couple other things, does Insidious. Boom. Another fucking franchise out the gate. Not out the gate, but just like off his next time doing a new horror property. I guess Dead Silence did happen. That didn't really hit because I was very excited for that movie. But yeah, just didn't. I love creepy puppets, but just was missing something. I'd like to watch again though because it's still good. And the other thing is they created was that whole Hello Zep and the big twist, right? Like they kind of almost revitalized Shyamalan twist in a way where people wanted to do something like a shock at the end, and people couldn't always level up to that. Insidious, I like the Insidious movies. They were never my favorites, but again, another big franchise. He directed 1 and 2, and that span off for that and spin-off. So again, blueprints right there. And then the biggest one for me, like even more so than Saw, because Saw is my favorite, Conjuring. Saw, I love. And for me, in my personal top 10 horror movies, I would put Saw up there. If it's of all time, probably not. If it's influential, I can make a list. But if you're just talking about best, probably not. I can make a case for Conjuring being in the best top 10 horror movies. I know some people might think, like, I think some people kind of think it's overrated, or it's like, oh, that's for very, just like, it's very hipster, like, that's for mainstream horror audiences. Like, true horror audience people would not put Conjuring. No. I put Conjuring up there. Shots-wise, score-wise, acting-wise, the scares, the lore, the pacing of it. To me, watch Conjuring 4, which is kind of trying to go for, I feel like, similar vibes as Conjuring 1, and you can see the difference of when James Wan is not behind the camera. Like, that's to me where James Wan, to me, you can always feel when he is gone from his conception. The other Insidiouses after 1 and 2, the other Conjurings after 1 and 2, like, I don't even love Conjuring 2, but you can feel James Wan there. You can feel him trying to do something different, and you can feel his vibe and his power as a director. You can't, like, the other ones, it's just missing. It's gone, right? Super Mike, who's created this topic, says, I actually really liked Dead Silence when I saw it. I want to watch it again. I think I've only saw it twice. I remember the first time being very excited because I love creepy puppets. It looks like Slappy. This guy did Saw. And I remember being underwhelmed. But I think the next time I watched it, I liked it more. So I should probably do a third viewing because, it's fun time enough. Like, I remember it at least being like a 6 out of 10. It's probably more now that I'm older. So yeah, I should give that a watch soon. But You know, Conjuring obviously creates this over $1 billion franchise. This last one's killing it. And again, a lot of these ones he just EP'd or produced, or there might be a story by credit. That's it. So really, it's just the one and two. But it's because his like Saw, Insidious, and Conjuring, they have that same tie, that because the original's so good and unique and has a different style, you can build off that style and make a whole world off it. Because obviously they were making these jokes when Aquaman hit 1 billion. People are comparing him to James Cameron, right? Because he did Furious 7, and then that Cameron's like, oh, tell me when he has 3 of them, or tell me when the original franchise, which is absolutely right. Like Cameron has the secret mainstream sauce to get that money. But you'd have to think about it, and that's where we're doing this cast now. I don't think there's anyone that's not even horror. Is there anybody that has directed, let's just even say one thing, and had 3 franchises? To me, it's like when I talk about Bill Skarsgård, right? Walk with me for a second. Christopher Waltz has Inglorious Bastards, and then he has oh god, why am I forgetting one? Maybe it's just that I thought there was another one. Maybe I guess you could kind of say Blofeld with Spectre, but there's something else I'm forgetting. But or Javier Bardem with Skyfall and No Time and No Country for Old Men. I've always said like it's hard for someone to get that trifecta of another great villain, right? Because there's can be similarities. Where Skarsgård to me with John Wick 4, It, and then with Nosferatu are 3 very great to good comic, or not, just villains, right? And that's where for me I'd have to think of, I feel like I can think of people that have created 2 at least, but 3 separate franchises that went on to be super successful. I don't know if I can think of that, because obviously, yeah, Cameron with Terminator, but you could argue the other ones weren't that successful, but still. But that's one. Like Ridley, like I'd have that'd be another deep dive for franchise. But I would have to say that James Wan has that record, right? I'm saying of our original IP, because yeah, those are all original. I don't think they're based on any short story, or at least I'm not saying something like a Marvel or a Star Wars, right? So that's another thing he holds. So James Wan has to be on there. Easy. My other one, personal number 2, but like I said, I can make the case. Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, yeah, Kirkland said, oh, I bet he's on there. He's trying to spoil my list. He's definitely on there. I say he's my boy. He is my boy. That guy, I'll watch anything he does, except for Oculus, which I still need to watch. Maybe I'll try and cross that off, because I'm literally when I started doing this podcast, getting it ready, I was watching Midnight Mass, because I wasn't gonna just watch it not that long ago. Taylor's talked about it. We talk a bunch about it on the in-person cast. But I think for this guy, is one, the talent is there. He's made some of the best, scariest stuff. He almost in the way where, like, also this happened in the original Strangers and happens in a lot of other horror movies. But I remember with The Haunting of Hill House, the craze of pausing the screen, because the idea is the ghosts are always around, and there's threads, there's like like pages you can click that give you the slideshow and everything like that of all the ghosts you didn't see in Midnight Mass. And that's or sorry, in I'm getting chills right now, in Hill House, because sometimes they were there, you didn't see them, then yeah, they'd pop out, do something scary, and sometimes they weren't. They're just chilling. And that's the thing where when you would see it, it'd be like a regular scene of people talking. There's a ghost in there, like, is it going to happen here? What's going to go on? So it would have you on edge all the time. I think the best thing that he's done, right? I think one is, if he's the franchise maker, I think Flanagan is probably the best, because I have. There we go. Nothing was wrong. If you were listening, I'm sorry. You probably did that thing where you check your phone, what's going on. Unplug my mic. This cord, I got to get a new one. It's awful. It's the one the boys always meme on me for. Oh, let me get a drink of water here, because I'll have to edit this. I did know, S-Bubs, that Oculus was a WWE Films. I did know. I've told that to them many times. It was early on in GeekVerse. We talked about that. But so I need to cross that off, because I think Karen Gillan's in it too. I think he is the best at, and it's hard with him, right? Because Mike said a director of any sort, right? For me, because I was going to say he's the best at creating in-depth, very emotional driven character latching on stories. All the characters from Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Full House Usher, they're very unique, and you can just think about, you could see an image of that character and go, oh, I know exactly how they act. They're very defined. He's great. He's a master at the character stuff. That's why Doctor Sleep is so good. It is a character study on Danny, and that's why, to me, I get why some people, I haven't met too many people that didn't like it, but I can get why that didn't perform the way it did the box office, because it's not a rewatchable movie if you're looking for the scares of like The Shining, which even The Shining, the scares are delayed a lot. I think people think of the door and the naked lady and all the ghosts in the last third act, and they don't even rewatch Shining, just think of that as, oh, it's a scare fest, and it's really not. Check out, obviously, we have our Halloween retro on Patreon. That is a character driven piece in a different way, but Dr. Sleepy does that. The Midnight Club's the only one where it is, but I don't think I think that is his weakest. They didn't fully get there, but the other stuff is fantastic. Even Life of Chuck, which obviously is not horror, but that has, if people have seen it, the first act, man, I'm getting goosebumps again, has something that happens that is scary. There's scary stuff throughout it, actually, but the first act has something where when you don't know the twist, it's fucking creepy. It is sitting on the edge of your seat like, what is about to happen now? I think I talked about it if I did a review on Trash Story or something like that. Like, if it happens, you're like, man, okay, something's changed. So for me, that's where the character stuff, and obviously he gets memed about a little bit, but it's a director's style, and all these characters in these things will have they sit down and do a big eulogy speech where it's 7 minutes. Like there's that scene of, I just rewatched in episode 4 or 3 where it's, I think it's Lauren Riley, but it's his wife and the guy who plays Riley in Midnight Mass. God, why am I forgetting his wife's name? She's such a good actress too. They talk about life and death, and it's like a full 20-minute scene, but to me, he's like this is probably giving him, credit maybe he wouldn't want to hear or have deserved, because it's a big thing, but to me, it's like he's the horror version of Tarantino, where he can just have two characters talking for 20 minutes, and I'm enthralled, even if it is very, kind of like very introspective. And I know some people have said that of like, I think with Midnight Mass, that was like a critique where all these speeches are like, people wouldn't talk like this, and it's so just kind of it's so otherworldly in a sense, where it does feel like God's talking about humans, or it's just so biblical. But like for me, I like that in a style. It works, especially with Midnight Mass. It worked a lot, but for me, I enjoyed that a lot. Let's see. Superman makes us Two Storms from Hill House is the best hour of horror TV ever. Oh God, what am I? Two Storms of Hill House. I've been thinking about rewatching that because it's been recommending it to. Oh yeah, absolutely too. Yeah, no, yes, yeah, 9.3 on IMDb. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna rewatch it because it's so good. Let's see here. It says, would have made more money if they called it Shine 2. Most people talk about didn't even know it was connected. Yes, I agree. They probably should have just done that. I know the book wasn't that. I know it doesn't make sense, but sometimes you just got to go with what you have. And the fact that it is Doctor Sleep, no one knew that was connected to The Shining, and they probably should have changed the title. Yeah, the monologues are great. The one at the end of Mass is chilling. Yeah, to me, the monologues are great. Like they all work. So, and I get it from that point of view. If it doesn't work for you, there is a lot of monologues, or if one particular monologue doesn't work, it can go on for a while, but even rewatching them, it works for me. So to me, it's this character stuff. And yeah, you got the movies, you got Hush to me, which is a really, really fun, clever horror movie. Gerald's Game, I like a lot more. The first time I watched it, I liked it. Second time, enjoyed it a lot more. And then, yeah, Dr. Sleep that was a gargantuan effort to follow up The Shining. Do I put it on the same level The Shining? No, but it's on a different hemisphere in a way, right? It's Mike Flanagan doing his thing. There's things that, don't get me wrong, don't kill me, there's things that Flanagan's doing that Kubrick probably wouldn't do, right? As far as like skill level. Of course, there's stuff with Kubrick he's doing that Flanagan couldn't do, or is just ripping off. That's the thing, like I love Mike Flanagan, but there's not many people I would say are on the level of Kubrick overall, right? Like to me, it's like him and Scorsese. When I consider best of, like, it's those two for very different reasons, but that's a good class to even be talked about, right? But with Dr. Sleep, he made it his own. So yeah, it has to be Flanagan. This other one, Mike, I don't think you're going to like, and some other people might think it's controversial. Some people might think it's dead on. was tough for me, but I have to put Jordan Peele here. So this is a double where obviously it's only the 3 films. So that's tougher, right? Because Flanagan and James Wan have a bevy of stuff. For me, this is definitely influence. Now, I enjoy all his movies. Nope is my favorite, and Nope is kind of like the least horror one, but Nope is my favorite. It's like a sci-fi horror. The stuff with Jean Jacket and how they eat, man, like it shouldn't be a spoiler now, but that scene alone, that's one of the most horrifying things I've seen in a long time. Those people getting sucked up in those tubes, man, maybe it's because I have a fear of being in tight spaces and not being able to move, but the sound effects, the reveals, the pacing, I think Us is great that way as well. I think obviously the third act and some of the ending stuff, the concept gets a little too big. And with Get Out, a fucking killer idea that put him on the map. Obviously, he was already Jordan Peele, but that was a coming out, like he won an Oscar for that, right? Like for the script. That is one of those ideas where you will see variations of it, but you can't duplicate it, So it's tough. So it makes sense. If Us was better received generally, I'd agree, even if I don't personally love his stuff. So here's the thing though, Mike, where I understand even why I winced at putting him on here. It's not because I have a problem with it, because I've enjoyed to liked all his stuff, right? To me, it's Nope, Get Out, Us. Us has some problems with third act, and even to me, Get Out, some of the problems with third act is it makes the characters, because they have to be kind of dumb in a way to make things keep going, right? Especially when they make them smart leads. And some of the humor honestly doesn't work for me. And Nope to me is pretty perfect. That shot too of the house when Jean Jacket's unfilling itself, man, that might be the shot of the 2000s for horror stuff. It is fantastic. The reason I'm putting him on here is, again, this is more of the influence. We just talked about Kubrick. Prestige, serious, we're going to make something that's not just a cheap in gore fest. Horror existed long before Jordan Peele, right? There's many examples. There's tons of like foreign, like Japanese horror I want to watch that have that, right? Where it is like prestige, beautiful, well-crafted horror. Because let's be honest, horror gets a bad rep because there are people that treat it like a porn thing where it's like, it's easy. Let's get a killer, some gore, some tits, some drugs, and boom, you got a horror film, right? And that's why they were compared to porn a lot, especially in the 70s, because it was just, people had that mindset of treating it a little lesser than. Peele didn't create the prestige, drama or horror genre, but he brought it back. When Get Out happened and was nominated for Oscars, and it was handled with a lot of delicacy, that was the way that people and studios, now don't get me wrong as well, in that era, there's other horror that's probably prestige and happening. I can't even name off, but the reason I can't name them off is because those were on a smaller scale, right? And obviously that created another genre of people hating prestige horror, of like, I don't want the hoity-toity, I want the gross, old school, raw, grip and rip horror. It's a controversial thing, but I think when Peele did Get Out, you saw a lot more studios take chances on prestige horror, where that's going to what is the Shudder, right? That's a very small, not getting distribution. That led the path to me for people like Eggers, like Ari Aster, even to Zach Greger, which I can't put Zach Greger in like prestige horror in my opinion, but like there's parts of it that is, right? He led the gateway for a renaissance of prestige horror when it was kind of gone away. Like that was definitely not happening in the 90s. 90s was, I feel like 70s was that, and then 90s was getting back to prestige or like very, cash in type of horror. Because even I was watching an interview with the Robert Englund, because the 7-pack for the Elm Street came out on 4K, and he was talking about how he wasn't even going to consider that in the 80s because that was looked as schlock, and he wanted to do Shakespeare and serious acting. But if you were in horror, that you were looked down upon, right? I think in the 90s and 2000s, it was kind of getting back to that. And I feel Peele, other people helped too, but Get Out was a big kick down the door. Oh, look what horror can be. Look at what, and even then, it's not fully accepted, right? Like, and I could put isms of Ty West being prestige horror, right? With Pearl and everything. Superman Mike says, could you make a case for Eggers and The Witch 2 years before Get Out? Yes and no. I think because for me, the reason Peele's on there is because it's mass influential, and I feel like to me, The Witch, I saw The Witch, and I'm not trying to be hipster. I'm just saying in my group of friends, people I knew, I saw The Witch with one other person that was a horror nut. My friend Chelsea, who me and Kyle used to work with at Best Buy. She was the person that I met that like just loved horror like me. Right now, because of the podcast and people we meet online, you find out there's so many of them out there, right? But almost 2 decades ago, when I met her, it's like, oh, finally, someone that like loves like that type of stuff, right? Where they're watching like You're Next, where I'm gonna be like, what is that? To me, Get Out had the impact where everybody is wanting to see Get Out. Everyone's wanting to watch it. People like Kyle, who, obviously was a black-led film, but don't like horror films, my friend. That had that appeal. Where The Witch, that would have been a tough sell. So that's why I'm like, I can't do that, because in the good consciousness of the influence, I think The Witch was in the Renaissance, right? And that helped where when that happened with Peele, that widen people's horizons, be like, what else is out there like this? Even though The Witch and Get Out, very different, far apart, right? But you could throw it in that prestige horror case. I think it benefited after the fact, or when you got The Lighthouse, but I don't think it had the impact that Get Out did. So that's why I couldn't put Eggers on there for that reason. I think he benefited from it and was adding to it, but I think Peele, he really kicked it down when Peele called him like the Steven Spielberg of horror, which, of course they did that to Shyamalan. Like, that's where, to me, it had a difference. And yeah, when you said, I guess Get Out getting Oscar attention does push it above. And that's to me where it is. It's, for me, it's both. It's the Oscars, but it also is mainstream attention, where The Witch didn't get that, right? Where, let me just look for other, let's see, prestige horror in 2000s. I just want to see if there's anything else that I'm leaving out that could have made a case for it. Like, someone put The Descent as like prestige horror, and I think the Descent's very scary. I don't know if it's prestige horror, and that's the tough thing. Like someone's putting like, yeah, I guess that's Google AI, but I'm trying to think of like yeah, like Let the Right One In. That would be prestige horror. But let's see, best. Let me just go to the 100 best of the 2000s for Rotten Tomatoes. They had Pan's Labyrinth. Yes, that's prestige horror. The Host, yes. Let the Right One In. Drag Me Hell, no. Shaun Dead, no. Wreck, no. Ginger Snaps, no. In my opinion. 20 Days Later, even though Mikey didn't love it, I could make a case for that, but I feel like it wasn't really happening. And then you have an Out Fact. Like the others, yeah, I could kind of make a case for that. So to me, he just gave it the big boom that happened. And that's where, for me, even if people don't love his work, you kind of have to give him that credit, in my opinion. And I still put him above other people, because Get Out is an all-timer concept, and then to me, Nope is one of the best ones of this past 2000. Babadook, absolutely yes, because Babadook, that was before Get Out, right? Babadook, but that's the same thing, right? Babadook 2014, and then Get Out was what, 2017, right? Yeah. So that's the thing, though. Babadook, same thing, same person. My friend Chelsea, like, I met no one that saw the Babadook back then when it came out. I had to like wait forever. Didn't get his Kelowna screening. Wasn't on any, like, I guess there wasn't really stream services there, but wasn't on Netflix. Like, I had to find a way to find and watch that thing. Couldn't even buy it. Like, the Babadook to me was same thing as The Witch, where it is that prestige horror, but that's when, to me, prestige horror was more niche and had a certain audience, where now there's more people accepting of it. For some people, rightly or wrongly, right? Because some people go, oh, there's too much of it now. But I think there's a good balance. I think we're in a good balance right now, and I think we're getting a lot of good horror stuff all around, right? So that's where we got 18 minutes. What do I do for the 4th spot, right? I asked people for some honorable mentions or who they would thought, and some names here that I brought up. So also, we talked about him just now, and I already talked about, Corley Forget. I think that's someone that could be down the line, but not right now. Eggers, that is somebody that could be. Witch, Lighthouse, Nosferatu, Northman. Because if I have James on there for the franchise, like, he's a franchise machine, and to me, he's made great one, like Conjuring, Saw, and Malignant right there. That's a trinity where I'm like, you deserve. Those are very, very special, right? Where if I'm trying to use the same thing for Eggers, I think The Witch is special. I think they're all special, but I think it's like varying degrees of how much you enjoy them, right? Like The Lighthouse, I enjoy it on a filmmaking perspective, but can you Is it something you want to really watch over and over again? And that shouldn't be the main reason why you get on the list, but it just means like I think there's many people that could watch The Lighthouse or The Witch and really not like it at all, right? So that's why it's tough for me. He might be on a Mount Rushmore somewhere if you're talking just quality, but if I'm taking a lot of different aspects, I don't know if he's there, but he could fill out 4th slot. I think he's probably the closest one to do it, just because he's making some. Nosferatu to me is a horror epic, and I think Werewolf could propel him. I might not even. I might still not have him out of the race yet because I have a 4th slot who I have there, but it's very tough, right? The other one, I have to wait till there's more of it, but I have to give the same way a shout to, with Peel and James Wan. He's not on here for sure, but Damien Leone, like for Terrifier and Art the Clown, and that's ones where I don't really even enjoy Terrifier 1 and 2 that much. I don't even think they're the best movies. I think they do what they do well. I get why people love them. I think there's stuff where it's like, man, a few little changes here, this could be better. And some of it is because of budget, and some of it's just because of choices, right? 3, I've said this before, felt like he evolved, felt like he upped his game. That's, you could tell when you see a director, and that's the thing where it's different with when you watch this stuff in retrospect, right? With Kubrick, you hear all the stories, then you watch it, right? Craven, you hear all the stories, then you watch it. When I'm watching this in real time to see Damien like evolve as a director, it's fascinating, right? And Terrifier 3 obviously had some of it because of the budget as well, but just in general, the pacing, I was like, the first half an hour, I was like, this feels miles better, like eons better than T1 and T2. So I don't put them in there yet. I have to see, because obviously Art, he's same thing. He's created a horror icon, which is very tough. Like I think James Wan has kind of done that with Jigsaw, but Jigsaw is like a mixture of the Traps and Billy the Puppet and Tobin Bell. It's kind of all the Pigmaster. It's all over, right? But it still Saw as a horror icon. But to have like another Michael, Freddy, Jason, Chucky, Leatherface, Ghostface, it'd been a while. It'd been a long time. People had attempted and it felt like they kind of stopped. Art the Clown is on that level now. When it's Halloween and you walk into Spirit Halloween or you walk into Hot Topic, Art the Clown is fucking everywhere. He's like this decade's Harley Quinn, right? So for me, I'd love to circle back in 2030 to see after he's done with Art, because I know he did another movie that didn't really go anywhere. After he's done with Art or Terrifier, what's next? Because to me, he could be like James Wan, where if it happens multiple times, and just the success alone of Terrifier 2 and 3, the fact that people can't like they wouldn't, many people won't advertise this movie, many theaters wouldn't carry the movie, or they had to self-efficiently promote and do the marketing and spend all that money. That is a major success story, even more than Saw, right? Because Saw short film gets picked up and then becomes a franchise blockbuster for the horror realm in Lionsgate, right? Terrifier still is like hard to distribute with people because it's like an X-rated movie, right? So it's very impressive, the whole thing. So I think he's a potential one. Yeah, we'll get there, Mike. So Espop says Billy the Puppet is a Frankenstein situation, or Frankenstein monster situation, where the GA might think the puppet is Jigsaw. I'm with you, right? Where if I do that list, I still would have them on there because the tape, let's play a game, but it is convoluted in a sense for people that aren't fan of the franchise, right? Other people, let's see here. Ari Aster. I think the problem is that he was if I'm considering Eggers on the Mount Rushmore, I think he was in that same boat with Eggers. He was neck and neck. And I think now, even though Eddington's not a horror movie, there's kind of some thriller aspects in it. I think he's been eclipsed by Eggers. I think with Lighthouse and The Witch versus Hereditary and Midsommar, they were comparable, and I think I could lean towards Ari taking the win there. Once you did, and let's put Northman and Eddington together, right? Because not exactly horror movies, but have some horror-ish stuff. Northman way more. To me, Northman clears Eddington, right? So for me, then it comes down to Beau is Afraid versus Nosferatu. And even if you were to flip it and do best versus best, I think Eggers' best is Nosferatu, and obviously Ari Aster's. I think you can make a case, but I do think his best is Hereditary, which I have a funny story I will share in the Discord coming up about Hereditary that happened to me today. But I think Eggers still clears him. I think Ari has the same way Lighthouse is very mixed with people, and even Witch. There's some people that don't like The Witch. Ari Aster's work is becoming more and more mixed. Even Hereditary had some mix about it, but I feel like now Hereditary and Midsommar have kind of locked their places in for the horror, for like not franchises, but classics in a sense. I think that it's the other two are too mixed. They're, and it's not mixed, like I said, in the Lighthouse way, where it's kind of varying degrees, right? Mike says Eggers is getting better, Ari is getting worse. I don't know if I can say worse. I get what you mean, though. I think he's getting more stylized, and that is less appealing to people. It's more of a specific approach, right? But so Ari, he can't be in there because of that. Osgood Perkins, he's somebody that could be. Obviously, I can't remember. I'll have to pull it up because I watched it last year and it was a pretty creepy movie. It's like the coal miner daughter, the black coal miner's daughter. Let's see, Osgood Perkins. I think not the problem, but he's what? Within the last 12 months, he had, because it's got Long Legs. Let's see, Long Legs, Monkey, and Keeper. Yeah, Long Leg, and I guess that makes sense though why it's happening though, right? Because he directed Gretel and Hansel, and then he didn't do a movie for 4 years, and now he's done Long Legs, the Monkey, and the Keeper, which are all coming out within 12 months of each other. So maybe he's just saving up there. Black Coat's Daughter, that's the one. There's some pretty horrifying things in there. I Am Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. Very experimental sort of film. Wasn't my cup of tea. I don't think it's necessarily good. I still need to see Gretel and Hansel. He's kind of like Damien Leone, where I need to see more with the output that he's saying. Superman says, "Oh no, don't say Osgood Perkins." But here's the thing: whatever, excuse me, whatever you feel about Longlegs in that movie, the Longlegs character, Nick Cage. I'm not saying he's like a Freddy or Jason, but he's become a somewhat pulp culture horror icon, right? He's created an iconic character that people know. There's memes about. You can just show a photo of him and you get it, right? And to me, Longlegs has a lot of reception for tons of people. I cannot put him up there because The Monkey I thought was fine. I think it was a very well-made movie, and for the people that like that Final Destination type of horror, I understand. But I think he's someone, Mike, that has potential. I gotta see The Keeper, but Longlegs could be the peak. I think Longlegs was something special, even though it's not a perfect movie for me. It's not like a 10 out of 10. I think there was something very special about it, and his style is very, very dreadful. So that's, I guess, what The Monkey was good for, something a little bit different, but yeah, I had to put him there because Longlegs came up. That's some prestige horror. Hannah Moore as a writer, to be fair, and that's what I've heard. Right? I don't think you're wrong. I think that's his biggest critique. Where the direction is fine, it's more the writing of it, right? And that's where I have to see what's he directing next to young people. Osgood Perkins, starring Nico Parker and Lua Tung. Okay, I don't know. I can't remember. I thought I heard the pitch about this. I thought it was interesting, the pitch, but I'm just saying he's somebody that could go there. Want to bring up, but didn't have them. The last one I have before the fourth on my list right now. So for Charlie, he said Charlie Randall, and I had him on the list anyways, but also for Mike's question, Scott Derrickson gets a nod from me as a great horror director in 2000s after Black Phone 2. He's not quite in the top due to his lack of movies compared to some others, but I think he could be up there if he did more. Love his style, and I mostly just wanted to shout him out because Sinister is my favorite horror movie of all time, which we will talk about Sinister in a couple weeks on our GeekVerse episode, if it's the scariest movie of all time and stuff like that, because we did talk about that list that some scare project put out. I don't know, but and finally on Osgood Perkins, Mike says his visual style is good. I agree. He didn't write The Keeper, so I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious too. Scott Derrickson, he's a tough one. He kind of feels like he's like light James Wan in a sense, right? Where he has two franchises. Awfully Black Phone's still going, but he did Sinister, but then Sinister 2 was very meh, and he didn't direct that. I think he wrote it maybe, but he didn't direct that, and that's when you can tell he was missing. And then Black Phone 2, he did direct and write, and you can feel that he was there because it felt evolved, felt carried on from the first one, and it felt like they were any changes or things they did to like, oh, this happened in the first one felt natural. Where some franchises they don't, right? I think, like you said, Charlie, he's worth a shout out. I can't put him there. I think he just needs more. I think Sinister was a start. Sinister was his Saw, and I think Black Phone 2 is very, very good. You can listen to our review we did last week in the non-spoilers. I talked about how it has some pacing issues. I think at times there's some dialogue and writing that isn't the greatest, and also just that there's just pacing where lots of exposition dumps, like too much, and lots of stuff that we already know when it happens, right? So for me, he's somebody, same thing, return back to when we get to 2030 if we're to do this list again, or the next Mount Rushmore. I think there's potential for him to get on there, but I don't see it because what was the other one that he did? I guess there's, right, I forgot. It has some very low lows, like Day That Earth Stood On, Deliver Us From Evil. Deliver Us From Evil. I think I've looked this up before. Isn't that some sort of like prison possession movie, right? Deliver Us From... Oh, yeah, with Eric Bana and Edgar Ramirez. I've always wanted to see this. I've heard not the greatest things, but that's the thing where he's very... I guess you could say hit or miss, but and that's right. I was trying to think of like what was the movie in between. Even the first Black Phone, I enjoyed it, but I was very underwhelmed by it. So he just needs a few more. If he could get a couple more Sinisters, he could be there. I have not checked out his Dream Kill segment on VHS. I need to still watch that, and I want to watch a bunch of them once I check that out, because I didn't know it was tied to Black Phone, so that's cool. But yeah, it's just he's just not there yet, and I don't know if he's ever gonna be there, and that's fine, right? He has a great career. Lots of people love Doctor Strange. And the thing is, like, Sinister, I don't know if you could put them out Rushmore for the 2000s. I think there's a case. I could make a... Oh, he did a Hellraiser, too. Oh, no. Some of those later ones are a little questionable. Like, but I that's a whole nother question, too, if we're doing directors and icons. If I were to do movies, I don't know if it's on there, but I could make a case for First Sinister being in the top 4, I think. I don't know for sure. It might be an honorable mention, might get there, but that's the thing where even if you just have a movie like that, where you can make the argument that you could have a movie on top 4, you're gravy, man. That's a great, people would kill for that career. Some people have nothing even close to that, right? I would kill to say, hey, in the 2030s, this GeekVerse studio, you could argue it's a top 4 Mount Rushmore horror movie, right? My name doesn't have to be up there. That's what you want to strive to be, right? But it's just like, he's had a very impressive career with some lulls. So that's where I just can't get him up there, but he's worth a shout out. But Mike had mentioned him, and yes, I think I have to give it to Fetty, even though, Mike, I was swaying. It's tough. That Eggers pick is very tough, because I got to pull up everything from, because one thing I'll bring up, and I guess this could fall into the director, not horror stuff, right? Even though my thing is slowing completely down. I was going to pull up all his movies. Even though it's not horror, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or The Spider Web, it is a thriller, right? And on the filmography, that's a tough thing. So it's like, that's where it comes down to the horror. The Eggers versus Fetty is the toughest run, right? Because you have Evil Dead. And I'll bring up your point, Mike, that you said because you said it had to be Fetty. And I agree, because I love that Evil Dead remake. I think that is the best one out of all the Evil Deads. I'm sorry to say, well, I'll say it's tied with Evil Dead 2. I prefer Evil Dead 2013 because I love that raw, gross, just messed up movie. But Evil Dead 2 is probably a better movie in a sense, and it's its own kind of masterpiece as far as like a horror comedy in its own. But like you said, he resurrected 2 franchises and created an original one. Let's see here. Let me get all his director's cred. Directed 10 things. So I've never seen any of his shorts. So his first feature length was Evil Dead and Don't Breathe. To me, if you compare that to Eggers' first 2, Witch, and then Lighthouse, yeah, Fetty gets that, because I think I like those both and those 2 both. Lighthouse is fun, is very fun. Witch, I don't know. I'm coming more around on Witch, Because I think when I first watched it, okay, that's good, but it came one of those festivals where it's like the most scary thing you'll ever see and the most frightening. It's like I didn't have that, but as I got older, and we did an episode on it last year, the Witch retrospective, and we talked about lots of the theories and lots of the meanings and the ways you could take it. I think Evil Dead, if I'm ranking them out of the first four, it's Evil Dead, Witch, Don't Breathe, and Lighthouse. And then as you carry on, though, Girl in the Spider Web and Alien Romulus. Then to me, if you compare that to Wolfman, or you compare that to Nosferatu, and then the Northman, if you have Girl in the Spider Web and Northman that are not horror movies, but horror adjacent and kind of the thriller, and there's some fucked up stuff going on in Northman, right? Northman to me, okay, I'm doing the bad Oscar thing. I've not seen Girl with the Spider Web. I will check that out, and I should check that out. I'm going to be safely say Northman's going to clear it, even just on a film technical basis, right? And the things I've heard about Girl with the Spider Web and it just kind of being all right. Northman, even visually, such a smorgasbord, right? Same thing, all the technical stuff, score, cinematography, like acting wise, it's all there. And then if you go to Alien Romulus versus Nosferatu, Dracula, Nosferatu, how many times have those things been done? And he made something different. He made something super dark and gothic that felt refreshing, but still akin to something in the past. He did the whole sexual horror, just crave addiction thing, but took a little bit of different spin on it. And I don't know, I enjoyed the route because I thought it wasn't as glamorized as Bram Stoker's, like the Francis Ford Coppola one. I thought it was going to be, and there's moments of it, but it's not. It's a tough one for me because if I'm going, again, in that spec, I'd have to just put Northman over Spiderweb. I've not seen it. I'm just assuming. Maybe I'm wrong. But then Romulus versus Nosferatu. To me, with Nosferatu, he showed how you could take the classic work that's been done before and do some new spins on it. And just, like, even the Nosferatu character, him and the work that Bill Skarsgård did was incredible. Mustache and all. Alien Romulus, I think, is great. But again, I've talked about before, the third act surprise and monster, that's fantastic too. I know some people don't like that. So Fetty's always, just like with Evil Dead taking a swing. What I hate about, not hate, but what I dislike about Romulus is that third act when we get into like tribute and legacy film tributing like territory, when we get into like stay away from her bitch, and it's like, why is Andy saying that? Like when we get in those illusions where that doesn't really work for me. So let's see, Mikey said, what about what wins between Evil Dead and Nosferatu? Oh, that's super tough. Those are both 10 out of 10s. Those are both to me like horror masterpieces. I have not watched Nosferatu again, Mike. I guess I could cop out and say because I want to watch it this year, because I want to watch with Emily. I want to subject her to it a little bit because there's some stuff I think she might like, but that's a movie that I need to be in a certain mood for. I think it's tough too because you have two great like performances in there, right? With Skarsgård, and then you have God, what's her name that did Evil Dead? It's Mia something, right? Who's not, and then she's in Don't Breathe. She's not done enough. That's an actress where I go like, how did people not see Evil Dead and Don't Breathe? And yeah, Jane Levy, how did she not become like this big star? How did studios and Marvel or DC or stars not scoop her up? Like when I pull her IMDb up, it says known for 3 things. IMDb always has 4 things on there. It's just Don't Breathe, Evil Dead, and Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Like, how is she not in a bunch of stuff? It's kind of crazy. That's tough. Super MX says Egger's definitely more grandiose director, but Fetty is effective making crowd pleasing meat and potatoes spook house style horror. Yeah, absolutely, right. But the thing is, like, he is a grandiose, but it's like Eggers might be the best at the grandiose, and it's tough. Like, I almost need Werewolf to come out to be a deciding factor here, but yeah, Evil Dead, because the same thing though. It's like Evil Dead, because the same thing I talk about the leads. Nosferatu has other fun performances in there. What Lily Depp's doing, what Holt's doing. I think I have to lean to Nosferatu, and I hate to do this, but I think here's the thing I'm gonna go. I did have Fetty. I think I've talked myself out of it. The reason I'm going to do this is because I'm going to go with the theme. You need to revisit this topic by the end of 2020s. I do, right? And I think that's why I said I need to see Werewolf and I need to see what Fetty does. Reason I'm going to actually lead to Eggers is because the original IP ness. Obviously, The Witch, based off of lots of stories and urban myths of the past, with Dracula, obviously a tale that you've seen many other tales done, right? So you have a reference point where you can make that same argument for Evil Dead and Romulus. I do think, to me, with some of those things that Romulus got into, the sequel, legacy sequel-itis, that takes down Fetty a little bit, even though Fetty's still great. You know, Fetty's still fantastic. I remember still that I didn't love Romulus as much as I thought. I thought I was going to love it to like an Evil Dead style. So I think just because of some of those original movies and, like you mentioned, Mike, the grandiose style, that's something where if you mute those films, lots of those films are going to look great, right? But I think Eggers' films are going to look like art, like all of them, right? Where there's not a lot of stuff in Romulus that I feel like is going to be like art, you know? So I think Romulus to me is kind of the deciding factor, but I think it's like Espo says, that's the tough thing though, where I feel like Eggers, you said, Mike, I don't know about Ari Aster, but Eggers is getting better. I feel like with each movie, to me Lighthouse to me is just very much an experimental film. The Witch, something very mind fucky, very, in depth, like urban myth, haunt you, think about what the time was like, what the emotions were like in the aspect of those characters in that setting, going through everything they went through. It's head trippy in a sense, right? Lighthouse is what it is. Northman, that's when he starts getting into those big, grandiose, wild, epic filmmaker style. And then when Nosferatu came out, pure epic filmmaker style. And I feel like Werewolf is, I won't say the deciding factor, but it's one of those things where if Werewolf hits the same way as Nosferatu, he's starting to build up that level where, okay, all that, it feels like Nolan, when Nolan's starting to get that gear, like, okay, he's just now an epic filmmaker, right? Let's see. Superman Mike says you could make a case for The Blind Man being a modern original horror icon. The Blind Man? Who might? The Blind Man. Oh yeah, right, that one. Right, I was thinking of the Bye Bye Man. Yeah, he's like Longlegs, where it's like to me a one-off. I think that sequel hurt it. But the Blind Man is, I think he's on a lower tier. And maybe if I do the icons, I'll try and do like a top 10. I'll still the 4 Rushmore, but I think so. The sound design, Don't Breathe is art. Yeah, absolutely. And then the Blood Rain scene in Evil Dead is art. Absolutely. So that's where it's like, I'm not trying to take Fetty down. Fetty, it's very tough. It's just that to me, if this is where, like Espo said, we need the 2020s. If you were to ask me, between the two, next film, what do you think is going to be the better film? I feel like it's going to be Eggers. And that's where I'm going to lean that way. I'm going to put Eggers there. It wasn't. I had Fetty there. But Fetty, I need to see one more. And I want to see a little more of the original stuff. Because what? We had... Because even Spiderweb, though, that's still based off a book, right? Like, I haven't seen that, but it's still like... That's even... Dracula is 2, but he is 3. And even then... The Witch is based off lots of research at the time, right? I'm not even going to count that as an IP. So all you could really count is Nosferatu, which he puts his own big spin on. But that's one. Where with Fetty, it is Evil Dead, former IP, Girl Spiderweb IP, Alien Romulus IP, and then Don't Breathe, which is original, right? That's where I need to... And here's the other thing. Obviously, not knowing what his next film will be exciting. Yeah, it will be. For me... a big thing, because I don't think let me just double check this will be the deciding knockout factor, and I'm delaying. You saw me looking at IMDb. You might see where I'm going with this, but I have to decide, because I don't think Robert Eggers has one big smudge on his resume like Fetty does. Now, Fetty did not direct this. It was with Netflix. A lot of things can happen when you don't, because I can't do the short. So yeah, he wrote The Witch, Lighthouse, Northman, Nosferatu, and that's it. Lots of things happen. When you look at Fede Alvarez, it's not, and it's just story by as well, right? So it's just story by. He didn't write the screenplay. It could sometimes be the idea in the treatment. Boom. Hit the nail on the head, S. Bubs. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do not put that all on Fede because he's linked that as a story by credit. That movie is real bad. Me and Taylor, you can check on the feed somewhere. We did review it. That's a really tough one, right? And that's where, for me, he did that. And then Romulus, which is very, very good. Mike says, oh, come on. You know it. I know in a sense where you can say like how, like strict that from the record, but you know, if I was in like an actual debate, like remember that show back in the day, Movie Fights, if I was defending Robert Eggers against, Fede that, and that's where too, like he says, by that logic, Juana's way more crap too. Yes, but I did say that was influential also from the box office franchise, standpoint, right? Where it is Saw, Insidious, Conjuring, like created these money machines that like build a foundation for new horror fans coming in, right? Where if that script or that movie for Chainsaw did that, and even wasn't the greatest, created a bunch more franchise or a bunch more Chainsaws based off that one, I'd understand. But Juan has, he has some buffers there, right? So I'm saying if we're splitting hairs and we go Fede versus Robert Eggers, that does, to me, if I were to say that in court, people would look around and go guilty, So I do think that, to me, it is a race between these two. I'm going to give her to Eggers right now based on just the original IP versus, IP, or just original versus IP. And I just think if it's Spiderweb and Romulus versus Northman and Nosferatu, I think it's the same thing that Eggers is getting better. You can see him transforming into that all-time great filmmakers where the other people are maybe stumbling. Like we said, Ari, we'll have to see with Fede. I didn't hear much about that call show, so we'll see. But we're going over time. I will quickly, let me see if I can... Charlie, I'll see if I can quickly answer your question here. And if not, we'll do it the next episode because we are a little bit over. But let me read it out. But I think I should be able to. The only question I have for this episode, kind of a continuation from last week. 2 weeks ago, Charlie asked about what franchise he should watch, first-time horror movies, etc. I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street was amazing. I loved every moment. That's great. I love that you enjoyed it. Also, cool seeing Johnny Depp so young. I could barely recognize him. Yeah, it's kind of a wild thing that, obviously lots of stars, Jamie Lee, Kevin Bacon come from there, but I think Johnny Depp was the biggest star to come from a horror movie, I feel like, to start off, right? And Charlie, if you don't know, he got that because Wes Craven was having a tough time deciding who to cast, and he asked his daughter, he said, hey, who do you think's the cutest one out of these boys? And she picked Johnny Depp, so there you go, because he wanted to have that appeal, right? So... I found Friday the 13th very bland and just straight up boring for most of the time. Not a single interesting character for me except Jason, who wasn't even in it for maybe 0.5 seconds. I don't know if that was even for him for sure. That's the only intriguing thing for me. My question is, what would the first series you would watch between Halloween, Nightmare, and Friday the 13th? I don't really have a preference, yet all the movies were on the same level except for Friday the 13th. But maybe they have great sequels. I have no idea. Let me know your thoughts. Have a couple more Halloween questions for future episodes in October. Yeah, great. Because I saw one, and definitely we're going to be doing a Halloween episode for GB. Obviously, people will say I'm biased because it's my favorite type of Shining, but I don't think it's a hot take. Nightmare, I said last episode, so I'll just reiterate that a bit, has the better sequels out of the bunch. Friday 13th is a mix, as I said before, that is better to watch with people and friends, or just watch when you are like, I don't know, you're drawing or you got some taxes to do or you're doing other stuff, because there is some films that are like bland, especially the first Friday 13th. When I saw on the big screen, I was like, you know what? This isn't that great. I understand the time of when it came out and why it was important. It did what it did, but watching in this context, like, you know what? It doesn't really hold up. Where Halloween to me still holds up. Friday 13th still holds up. Or sorry, Nightmare still holds up. So, and that's where I said Halloween has some bright spots. I like 4 a lot. Some of the, 2018 has some good stuff. There's big defenders for the Rob Zombie ones, but I can unequivocally say that Freddy has Dream Warriors, which is the third one, and then New Nightmare, which are great. At least a 9 out of 10, in my opinion. So that's where I would say definitely go that route. SBub says, I love Texas Chainsaw 2 on a first watch, then I saw in theaters and it was awful experience. Yeah, we all have those, right? Because all I did was watch Friday at home. Thought it'll be fun. It was awful. The speakers were all also like worst experience of my life. They turned the speakers like to the max, and that movie was the loudest movie of my life. I'm getting PTSD right now. Friday is definitely the weakest, even over for the overall franchise. And yeah, I think most people feel that way. I think it's, like I said, I think that almost has to be a communal thing where you watch with people. I've been to theaters, it was a good time, but at home, it's tough. But yes, and that's the thing. Friday has the best remake, though. Absolutely. You could argue that is the best one out of the franchise, which you usually can't, right? So I would say, Charlie, especially if you loved Friday the 13th, or sorry, I keep fucking that up. If you loved Nightmare on Elm Street, continue on. Even some of the ones like 2, another, prepare yourself, very controversial mixed movie. I love 2, especially now. I suppose says the subtext. It's not so subtext, but like, I love that allegory and what it goes for. And I like, especially, I get why people maybe didn't like it at the time, because it's like, this is all we got for Nightmare 2. But now that we have like 7 or 8 of them, it's a very interesting movie. 4 is like a good double bill with 3. 5 and Freddy's Dead, not the greatest, but also 2 and the remake not. But I could argue same thing for Friday the 13th. Freddy versus Jason, an absolute fucking ball good time for a movie. So that's what I'd say, Charlie. And even some of the other lesser nightmares, except for Freddy's Dead. Buckle up, Freddy's Dead fucking sucks in my opinion. I'm sorry, really not good. Even the producers, when they've been doing the documentary, said, yeah, you know what, we kind of stumbled on that one. There's still interesting ideas and kills in these other ones, and it does get more comedic and kind of crazy. Yes, Super Freddy S Bubs, but it does get kind of tongue in cheek in a way that you're in on it. Not that it's so bad. Where Freddy's Dead, I think, did go too far, and they've even said that, if I recall, that they went too far and it wasn't too funny. And then, yeah, you got New Nightmare. So I'd say Nightmare, stick with that. A lot more gems in that. So, yeah, there you go. Went a little longer today. So I'll be back on Wednesday. If you have any questions, think about them. If not, we'll figure something out. And I promise when you hear from me next,